This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello, happy Saturday, and welcome to Saturday Morning Mysteries, where we are your hosts. I'm Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And we are back to talk about our new favorite show, apparently, temporarily, at least for the next several weeks, Darkwing Duck. We're back. It's our third episode out of who knows how many. No rules here. We make the rules. We break the rules. Maybe there will be 20 more episodes. Maybe there will be 3. Maybe
we are the
who
rules.
Knows? We are. I am the rule. So we're back. And today Grace is going to tell us an episode. I went last week. Obviously, we've got some darker tales coming from Darkwing Duck. Disney was... They were with it. They were on top of it in the early 90s. So I am excited to hear what shenanigans, what perhaps terrorist activities or geopolitical woes we see Darkwing become intertwined with. I'm not sure what's happening today.
A lot.
Any other business we need to cover, though, before we jump in? I don't know.
I think just a pleasant reminder to make sure that you're subscribed to us and that you've rated us with a nice solid 5 stars.
Oh, yes.
It helps boost the algorithm so more people can find us and enjoy. And then you also, if you subscribe, you always, not always get notified, but like it'll always, you open Spotify and it's like new episodes by Saturday Morning Mysteries. So you'll always be in the loop about new episodes.
And if you subscribe on YouTube, there's like a little bell. When you hit subscribe, you get options. And if you click the bell that has all by it, then you'll get all of our notifications. So if you subscribe on YouTube, anytime that we post a video, your phone will tell you. Yep. Click that. I suggest, I recommend doing that. We're not that annoying, it'll brighten your day to get that notification that we have posted something new.
That we're here. Your friends are here on Saturday morning.
We're here for you.
Yes. And the random times we do bonus content.
Exactly. Like Tuesdays or Wednesdays or something. I don't know. But yeah, whenever we want. We'll be in your ear.
Always. Anyways.
Yes. So today though, Darkwing Duck, a new mystery, a new thriller. Let's hear what our hero has in store.
Okay, so funny enough.
Okay.
So by a very funny happenstance, your last episode, so what came out last week, with Alexis's leading into geopolitical matters and espionage.
Yeah, controlling financial systems of other countries through terrorism.
Combined with my first episode of Darkwing Duck, so 2 weeks ago, of some darker stuff in Darkwing Duck, are all coming together for today's episode, which is going to be a journey. I'm really excited. We're even going to lay
stretch out.
Yeah,
get ready for this trip that we're going to go
brain out right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
For this,
what am I getting in store?
So we okay. I'm just going to get into it.
All right.
I'm going to get into it with multiple caveats prior to getting into this episode today.
Disclaimers. Yes. Like red exclamation points flying over the screen right now or through your headphones.
Yep. So first, I want to point out that I think today is going to be actually one of our most complex crimes yet. Because on the surface, it seems simple, although disconcerting because it starts real fucking dark that I'm surprised Disney included. But
I'm surprised this wasn't one of the cut episodes when you haven't even gotten into it yet. And I'm like, dude, why did they cut this shit?
Yeah,
sorry.
Buckle up. I think it's because whoever the writers were, click, for this episode were some radicalists, and they were able to slip this episode in. So I argue that today, this otherwise seemingly innocent episode of a children's tale is in fact a microcosm for something much greater. But as you just mentioned, the takeaway of today's story ultimately was that actually this episode, I will argue, was ahead of its time, and that the big wigs at Disney just didn't realize it when they signed up on the episode.
They did not foresee what would happen 30 years down the road.
Yep. So this is the disclaimer. I don't want to be upfront about it, that none of the comparisons I make during this episode today between real life and the show are meant to portray me as any type of expert, especially on some pretty complex pieces of history. I've tried my best. I'll get things wrong and accidentally make assumptions, I'm sure.
We're a comedy podcast first, and then true crime and then animation after. So we're not an authoritative source of history or news. Anything. We're kind of just pooling what we remember from things and what we understand. We have other jobs. We don't have time to be researching these things deeply. This is for your comedic enjoyment. So do not use, if you're a student who's about to write a history paper or like poli-sci, political science or international affairs research paper, like do not use us as a source, clearly.
We are not your source. And in addition, I want to clarify something that we should have said at some point. It should have been implied, but I think that we should officially say it. That no views expressed here by me or Alexis or ever are indicative of our employers or their views.
Not at all. Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form.
None whatsoever.
Yeah. I feel like we should say that.
And obviously, like, we don't talk about, who we work for or whatever. If you know us, then obviously you know who we work for.
Yeah. But like,
we're just totally separate and apart from anything we do during 9 to 5 on weekdays. It's Saturday here right now.
Yes.
Yeah. We record on Saturdays or Sundays. We're not even thinking about work. We're not thinking about our bosses, any of that. Yeah. Totally separate. This is us personally. You're getting to know us personally, not as employees or cogs and machines that keep this country running.
Yes, exactly. So today, with all of that said, I'm going to cover Darkwing Duck episode 8, but if you're on Disney Plus, I think it's episode 10.
Okay.
Entitled Water Way to Go. Like what a way to go, but water way to go. Yes, you get it.
I like that you gave that disclaimer. Now I see where you're going. Yeah, I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer here. Gotcha. We'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Yep. And so,
waterways.
This also came out in 1991. But we're going to start, even with all my disclaimers, a little differently today. We'll soonish learn who the perpetrator is in this episode, but I'm going to lay out for you right now the 3 suspects that I think are actually the macrocosm that this episode represents.
Okay.
As we go through, I want you to keep each in mind. And at the end, while I'll summarize each of these greater suspects and why they tie into the episode and why I think that they're the actual perpetrator, I would love to hear your opinion on which of the 3 you think did it.
Okay. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of folks in this episode,
including dear listeners and viewers. Drop it in the comments. And then I'll tell you right now, I'll also wrap up with, I think, the greater takeaways from the episode. And really this comes from like, I see these 3 things as driving the episode, and I couldn't pick which one actually like was the main cause. So you're ready for my 3 real subjects, my themed subjects?
Yeah, I think.
So I think in today's episode, the true perpetrators behind the actual criminals are either capitalism, the fossil fuel industry, or U.S. foreign policy and international intervention.
So capitalism is all 3 culprits.
Now you see why I started off with the disclaimer.
Yes. Oh, shit. Oh, God, do not get me in trouble. Great. Don't get either of us in trouble. All right, let's hear it. Let's hear how capitalism, the fossil fuel, US military intervention, private actors, what happened? Tell me about today's episode.
Let's begin.
Yes.
So our story today begins in Shush headquarters, which, yes, as a reminder from our episode,
our new favorite spy agency.
Yep. Last week, where Alexis explained to us that, Shush is essentially the intelligence agency of St. Canard. It's kind of easiest if you think of them as the CIA essentially, like we said in our last episode. They have agents of all varieties and all kinds working on cases that span not just the streets of St. Canard and presumably America, but the world. And if we're going to compare them to the CIA, which I will be,
yes,
we can perhaps assume there are scenarios in which they are actively called into international incidents, and others, some other times they're unwelcome guests in international incidents. Yeah. Just like they probably are now in this podcast, for me even saying that.
The FBI and the CIA are both monitoring our account. Maybe that explains that funny, interesting email we got earlier this week. We won't talk about it, but yes. I was thinking that, like, oh shit, they really are in our account.
Yep.
You mentioned piracy once.
And now they're really doubling down now that I've officially talked about them. Yeah. So now DW, as we explained last episode, is Darkwing Duck is essentially like a government contractor to Shush. Yes. So when the Shush agents aren't able to get the job done, they call in to DW to the dismay of some at HQ, at Shush HQ. Vladimir Grizz, whatever his last name was.
Grizz, as we call him.
Yes, as we saw in last episode. Basically, I kind of see like Darkwing Duck as like Shush's, we said it last episode, like off the books kind of guy. Again, the Blackwater government contractor situation. So despite the somewhat shady relationship between Shush and DW, as well as the operations of Shush themselves in international matters, the situation which this episode surrounds, I will say, is consensual between like Shush and the country in which we will be traveling to.
We're leaving St. Canard borders.
We are leaving the continent even.
Yeah.
We are going full international today. But the country involved has been receiving active threats against their safety and the safety of their people. And they've been actively harmed by an aggressor. And so they sought out Shush's help. They didn't have the resources to have their own international agency. So they did go out and seek Shush and call them in. So the international situation seems to be going like very badly, even under Shush's watch, because they like cannot control the situation any longer. And the current situation in which Shush is calling in DW because it's gotten out of control. And the show explicitly says this, is that the situation has led to the death of 24 Shush agents.
They straight up say death.
They say that. They full on say 24 agents have died.
Okay, sorry. I don't know if people have listened to the past couple episodes of us talking about Darkwing Duck, or if maybe you tuned out very briefly at the beginning of this. This is a Disney show, you guys. Yeah. This is Disney. This is a Disney show.
Disney was
1991.
Different.
And this was like a daytime show. This was not like Disney trying to be edgy. Or this was before Disney did the like now if you turn on Disney Plus, you can see some violent stuff. They just put some Marvel stuff on there that's violent.
But this is
30
show.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Children's show.
Straight up saying that 24 agents have been killed. Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't like the Disney trope where it's like one or both parents of my parents are dead and I'm a princess, so I go stronger. Like, no, it's just
these are political.
Like 24 dead ducks, like international ducks. Why 24? I don't know.
24. Jack Bauer is going to pop up. So yeah, I just totally remembered your obsession with that show. Bonus content.
Oh,
sorry.
My God. Shout out. I hope Paige is listening and has heard of this podcast. Shout out to her and my love of 24.
Yes.
Okay. No, quick side story.
Yeah. I took it there.
On the road. Yeah. Loved 24. I watched that. I have so many side stories about 24.
Yeah.
You know what? No, it's going to be bonus content.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. We're going to, for you now, because I didn't watch, the only times I ever watched 24 was with you for the most part. But now, because I know you have so much to say about that show, and we have a lot of nostalgia surrounded around that show. It's not animated. Hey, that's a crime thing though, so it's fair game for this podcast.
True.
Bonus content coming about 24 in the coming months.
Need a break now to continue this episode.
So sorry,
but somewhat relevant because it does have to deal with international incidents. So we learn, like the 23 before him, the latest agent, has also died by drowning. So they also say how they fucking died, which is by drowning. So while the investigation is like a serious international threat, it's also, has now led to murder and drowning of 24, at least St. Canardian espionage agents. And what's so strange, especially about this circumstance, is that each one of these agents drowned in the middle of a desert in the middle of a country where the story takes place, a place called, and a trigger warning for some 1991 borderline racism or straight up racism or veiled racism that in 1991 they thought was okay because it drove home a greater point. The country's called Oil Arabia.
Oh.
Yeah, it's bad, everyone. It's bad. It's bad.
Oof. Okay.
So let's assume the writers meant Saudi Arabia, who indeed in our world is a large producer of oil, has been for many decades, currently is one of the largest, along with US and China these days. So a little real world note and a bit of history here that you should look into full podcasts about. Again, no authority figure, and I've tried my best, but this is an extremely complicated, complex history.
Long history.
For a lot of their history, the relationship could be described as like a non-volatile relationship or like a transactional allyship. See, basically decades ago, the US got a significant amount of oil from Saudi Arabia, which is located on a lot of oil deposits. In return, and not too long before this episode aired, actually, if you remember my introduction to the series, the US offered military security to Saudi Arabia around the Gulf War. But in reality, like, the relationship with oil and security offered goes back like decades before then, like early 1900s, and probably like even more in depth. And we're going to like stop and cut off trying to talk about the history now, because again, it gets really complex. We're not going to get into modern day stuff. Just know that I think this is the background in which the writers decided to, like, again, very racistly build this story and country. I will say also, because I texted Alexis, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing like full research for this. I went into like a rabbit hole of listening to Platt's Capital Crude podcast and the Babel podcast, which cover things like this. And I highly recommend, especially Babel. Capital Crude is more about like oil markets and stuff, so it can get economics can get real wonky. Babel is really fantastic and is more about looking at some within the whole Middle East geopolitical history and modern stuff. So highly recommend those. And obviously Wikipedia. But again, this is not a show about US and Saudi history or relationships. I just wanted to point all of that out, that that's also probably why Shush was called in. The relationship was there. Consensually called in, et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, with a rising body count, Shush calls DW and Launchpad into the investigation, where we learn that basically our dear friends from last episode, Fowl, which of course, the head of Shush, what was his name? Jay Gander Hooter was Jay like, Gander Hooter. It smells like something's gonna foul, because they make fun with the word foul, which is FOWL. And like the fiendish organization of worldwide larceny or something like that.
I only know
I
because I literally just talked about it. If this were like in 2 weeks, I would not. Anyway, whatever.
So we learn that they know it's Fowl. Fowl's also been the ones killing the agents. And Fowl has been making threats to our fictional Saudi Arabia. And specifically, they've been making threats, attempting to take over oil production, again, outright killing agents, and starting to take just those verbal threats into actual like terrorist actions within the country's borders. It's geopolitical and intense right off the bat.
And violent, yes.
Yep. So Shush, again, calls in DW and Launchpad LP. They send them on their way immediately to go in country, where they land among, beautiful orange desert dunes that are stretching and rolling as far as the eye can see. You don't see any other structures, any other signs of life except for the desert dunes, until we kind of zoom in over to the population of the country, which it's kind of like up on a plateau, essentially, is kind of where like the palace and the city is. We were greeted right away with the royal family, and mainly the princess, who, like I said in my first episode, some of the female characters get the short end of the stick in these episodes. But she's definitely one of them. Like, I don't even know if they gave her a name. We just know she's the princess. But she is really excited to see Darkwing and Launchpad. She's heard that these are the guys to solve the problem. She's willing to supply them with like whatever they need to put an end to Fowl and help protect the country. Oil, the princess says, is all their country has, and their people depend on it. And here I would like to, for the record, insert a sigh from me, but I will refrain from unpacking that statement and explaining what just transition is and why we don't need to be dependent on fossil fuels, dear princess. But I will refrain for the time being.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
bonus? No, that won't even be bonus content. No. That's just something Grace and I will talk about off camera or off recording, exactly. Venting about to each other. Yep. Sorry, you guys will never hear our thoughts on this.
So the country is positioned, like I said, up on this like high plateau, and it's surrounded by like enormous oil rigs, just like fucking everywhere. Like the deserts, dunes, like 10 feet from the palace building are just like the oil rigs.
Oh my gosh. It's like that is their skyline.
Yeah. So they're like really trying to be like, oil is all our country has type of thing. There's no diversification of this economy at all. And as soon as DW and Launchpad basically step off of the plane, or, their cool ass shaped like a duck plane.
Maybe LP finally is flying something in this show. Nope. Darkwing was totally flying it, wasn't he?
He was, but only because a whole side plot that I don't get into at all during this episode is that Launchpad's like, I'm tired of being the sidekick. I want to be the hero. And so DW's like, fine. And then Launchpad's like, that means you have to fly the ship and carry the bags. So,
wow. That's, I did full disclosure. I've not seen this episode. Yeah, I just randomly brought that up, and wow, okay.
Nope.
He's putting his foot down. He's like, I'm done with this shit. All right, you carry the bags.
Over-rigged.
Yeah.
As soon as they arrive and greet the princess, as if they didn't need further reminding that the threats from Fowl were real and dangerous, they find and just see sitting out in the open what's called a mega blaster fissure bomb, which I think is just a really big bomb. And I would also totally never bomb that.
Mega, I guess. Yeah. All the fun words.
Yeah. They just looked up different names for bombs and what bombs do, I guess.
They can blast, they can create fissures. They're mega.
Mega. And so they're able to dismantle it, but it was positioned like right at the base of one of the oil rigs. So Fowl is even like ready to like destroy what they need to like take down this country. So again, luckily they dismantle it to avoid disaster. And the princess explains that, like was mentioned in kind of the dossier. Yeah, the threats have been turning into outright attacks and growing more and more audacious. So there's like not really time to lose. Like clearly, like bombs have just been placed in the country. So DW and
Jesus
LP.
Christ.
Yeah, it is.
This is intense.
It just goes this episode. So DW and LP hit the desert dunes on camelback. As a quick note, because actually it's great that you mentioned the side plot, because I again didn't write all this stuff in, but now that we've mentioned it, I will mention it. That like DW is like just on the hump of a camel, like fucking miserable, but because LP is like thought to be the hero by the princess, he's like on top of the camel, but he's in like essentially like it's as if they took the backseat of like a white Cadillac lined with gold and like knocked off the like trunk into the front and just put walls on it and then put that on top of the camel.
Like what you see, like what is it like called, like Maharajas or whatever, on top, but it's like a Cadillac. Yeah.
It's like a white caddy,
shaped like a car.
Yeah, straight up a car. And so like LP's in there like living the dream, like he's listening to his like Walkman and like that kind of stuff, just like chilling.
His Walkman,
which is very funny. But so DW, I guess, hears LP doesn't. Again, the darkness of this episode of whatever writer was going through it, that where they're headed to right now in the desert is, and I quote, the scene of the last agent's body. Like they're going to check out the murder
the
scene.
Dead. Yeah. Holy crap.
So like full on like talking about murder in this Disney show.
Do you think this show, sorry, very, very quick side tangent. Do you think this show was like trying to encourage our generation to like go into like foreign service type of work, like
we'll talk
exciting
about it
us about? Okay, cool. I'll stop right there then. Keep going. Yeah, I'll put a pin in that thought.
I think this episode had much more implications that, again, the bigwigs at Disney did not realize when they signed
like some
off
of it,
on
like this stuff was going on in the 90s. Like you said, the Gulf War, and the United States has been trying to get oil from other countries for a long time. So like some of that was already happening, but yeah, maybe there were some unforeseen historical consequences that made this a little too real for our generation. Okay. I'm going to stop right there. I'll put a pin in that thought for the end.
Just hold it there for now.
Gotcha.
So like we mentioned last episode, FOUL is that international terror group who, they're obviously ramping up their efforts right now. And they kind of have, like similar, like contracted out agents. And so we see the agent, I guess, who's leading this current effort to try and take over the oil production in this country. He's a giant chicken, like just a very, very, his body shape reminds me of Johnny Bravo, of like very broad up top and like skinny.
No legs, no leg days. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. He's wearing like a full, I mean, I guess again, like probably just top up, like white tuxedo. He's like smooth talking. He like constantly is like brushing back the like whatever's on top of the chicken.
Yeah.
He's like full on like talking in a New York accent. He's like supposed to be like I don't know, like a smooth mobster or something like that. And it's just like I wish I would have written down more of the quotes, but he's just like
in this like at one point, Saudi Arabia equivalent, essentially, like, but like,
I think not even like an in-country. He's not from the Middle East. He's like straight up from New York, like
exactly,
and has now gone
like,
out
what are you
there
doing here.
Yeah, exactly,
getting that oil money.
Yeah, and of note, his beak is actually metal. So his name is Steelbeak. Subpar naming.
I bet they came up with the name before the character. And they're like, oh shit, now we have to give him a metal beak. That's going to look weird. Oh, well, name's too good. Stick with it.
Steelbeak. Done.
Steelbeak. Oh, that's not, well,
no questions asked.
Great. Love the name.
Yep. So, so we learn that, this is another large, grand, complex scheme by FOUL, because what power is stronger than gold?
Friendship.
Sometimes. The power of friendship. Give me your country.
We will not be friends. Stick them up.
Exactly. This is my friendship. This is my friendship bomb. This is a Fisher bomb, friendship bomb.
Boom, let's get brunch.
Boom, are you
Drop
free
a
on Thursday?
brunch on your country. Friendship. I own you now. Yep. No, what really is more powerful than gold?
Sometimes called black gold, oil.
Boom.
Yep. So
that's way better than friendship.
No, is it?
No, not now. Oil costs like $5 a gallon now. Friendship, if you've got good friends, is free.
$6. I mean, free.
Sorry, I'm like Venmoing Grace right now. Like, all right, here's your $18 for 3 hours of friendship today.
Yep, exactly. And at one point he literally says, like, yeah, gas makes the world go round. So, yeah, he's fully into it. He, under the guise of Fowl, plans to take over the country's oil reserves, production, and operations in order essentially to have the world monopoly on oil and, like the good New York capitalist that he is, franchise it, baby, by opening up gas stations around the globe.
Of course.
Is their plan. So, yeesh,
this is a little too real.
Yeah.
Okay.
I randomly picked this episode, and the screen grab for it or whatever on Disney Plus is like Darkwing Duck with like a watermelon on his head because he like falls into one at one point, and I was like,
okay,
cute.
This is funny. I'll also say Grace sent me a picture of herself watching this episode, and she looked frightened. I'm guessing it was this episode. Maybe it was the first episode, actually. Okay. Yeah. You looked frightened and horrified. So clearly that title card image or whatever is very misleading. Yeah. Damn you, Disney.
I'll put the picture up on Instagram. Cool. You swipe on it on our Instagram to see the text thread in which I'm like responding to this episode live. But we also learn that Steelbeak is also the straight up murderer on our hands as well. Because when he sees DW,
serial killer.
Yeah, because
24 bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. He knows DW from, again, probably just like the international espionage community. And he sees him and he immediately says, how many agents do we have to kill before they get the message? So again, got it. I got the message.
There was his admission. Yeah.
I got the message, Steelbeak.
Got it. You're killing people.
But how, Grace, you might be asking, is Fowl killing people by drowning them in the middle of a desert?
Yeah.
Great question.
How are they killing people by drowning them in the middle of a desert?
Thank you. Great question, Alexis. Yeah. So it turns out, and actually, I think this goes into your last episode a little bit too with the Fowl agent, that in reality, I think Fowl's greatest strength is R&D. Because if they had like a good person at their helm, they could use all of this inventing genius for good in the world. But alas, they do not. The three who run Fowl are very evil. But the latest invention from Fowl is a machine that can create enormous storms with the push of a button and a pull of a lever. Oh. So, like, yes, they can make, things like sandstorms, which they do, and they turn it on for DW and LP. But this machine's specialty is rain and lightning storms of like epic proportions. So basically they used this machine on unsuspecting agents and thus cornering the agents, flooding wherever they were, whatever like sand dune they were in, and drowning them by unsuspecting random storm in the middle of the desert. So as DW and LP make their way through the desert, now seriously lost because of the brief sandstorm that had been created by that little handheld machine, they come across something extremely suspicious in the middle of the desert. For in the middle of the desert, they find a fleet of naval battleships being constructed.
Okay.
So
question marks. Yeah.
Indeed. So they try to investigate, and they are literally just immediately caught by like the henchmen of Fowl, which everyone calls them the Eggmen because they're like other ducks that are more like DW size, and they're dressed like aliens, again, like Marvin the Martian style, in like these like yellow outfits. And then you only see like their beaks because they have on like white like helmets that like look like little like egg topper, like the top half of an egg is like their little helmets. And on occasion they have what looks like a Daff or a Donald Duck like cap on top of the helmet too. I don't know. It makes no sense.
It's supposed to be intimidating. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I should like go in for a hug and an autograph or like run in fear for my life.
Yeah. It's incredibly unclear. And especially because again, the vibe of Steelbeak is like the old, like Rat Pack era, like New York gangster type of thing.
Yes, and then just back.
Like, yeah. And then
did
like
he have
little,
like a red flower anywhere on? Yep. I swear I've not seen this episode. You said white tux or white suit, and like he has to have or some sort of flower or like
I'm pretty positive
pocket square or something like bright color to point out contrast that he's got style and class and he's got money because he's a criminal gangster.
Yep. And then comparison to like these little eggmen, literally eggmen is what they're called, just like
I need to watch this episode just so I can get a feel for what the hell these things look like, because
they're so they've got like the full like white boots, white gloves, like again, alien eggman, unclear.
Whatever. Yeah. Something. Yeah.
Yep. Anyways, they get caught in seconds because they're in the middle of the desert and there's nowhere to hide. So like they just go on to
nowhere to hide. Sorry.
So I wrote back to an earlier episode.
Much earlier episode. Anyway.
So yeah, they're like immediately captured and like tied up. And Steelbeak does go to pay them a visit because he does have, I don't know if it's some history with DW specifically, or at least knows about them. And neither of them are like surprised to see each other. Yeah, DW is like, of course it's you, Steelbeak.
Yeah. It's like the last episode. Like there's like all this background history that the viewers are not aware of. But Darkwing knows all these villains, they're both prolific. They're world renowned.
Exactly. World renowned within the espionage communities. We'll say DW seems like pretty freaked out. Like Launchpad is like giving Steelbeak some sass, and DW is like, dude, cut it out, cut it out. Like, don't fuck with him. He probably knows that he's the one who murdered 24 agents. And the like,
let's not make it 26.
No. But I mean, if Launchpad keeps going off, it's about to be.
Yeah.
So again, in the darkness of this episode, Steelbeak, maybe because he knows them, shows a little bit of mercy by literally saying that he's putting off the usual torture thing, like as a like favor to him, I guess. But again, we saw torture in the last episode, so Ace Stark in here.
Yes.
So because they know each other, or because it's in like the DNA of villains to explain their schemes, we do indeed now fit together why Fowl has this weather machine in the first place and why they're building these like naval ships, like battleships. It's because our fictional Arabia is built up on the high dunes and that plateau of the very dry desert, and thus they don't have a navy. And it's completely, landlocked. Fowl is planning to flood the desert and then overtake the country with a naval force because they won't have any ability to protect themselves from it because they ain't got ships in the middle of the desert. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
God, these are
in-depth schemes.
Yeah, these are very in-depth. Again, with the geopolitical strategies. Disney, what are you doing? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. So basically, they're going to flood the country, invade with a navy that the country
flood it with water and with the military. Their military.
Exactly. So yeah, all in all, it's like a lot of work for kind of a simple plan. They had to develop a way to create storms and rain. They had to build naval ships when they could have just like found some other export that the country wanted and used that to wheel and deal.
Infiltrate, like a Trojan horse.
Yeah, or like the entire classic United Trojan States relationship with real life Saudi Arabia. They tit for tat situation. Also, I would like to pause to ask, they're going to flood the whole country. Won't they have to rebuild and fix all of the oil operation infrastructure they ruined by flooding it? Or are they going to do like underwater extraction, which is a whole other type of operation? Either way, it seems like they did not fully like.
Yeah, maybe the plan's not as good as we're initially giving it credit for.
Yeah. Like no one thought like infrastructure is a big deal.
Yeah, that's a very expensive deal. Yeah, it's like the depth of the plan is there, but for what comes after, it's like, okay, cool, interesting way to overtake a country. Now what?
Indeed, Alexis. Indeed, as if it's a reflection on real life. Anyways, DW and LP are able to break out of their holding cells, luckily, that they get put in. Of course, they are able to battle for this rainmaking machine with some of the Eggmen who were guarding it. Unfortunately, in a tumble, like, they kind of fuck up the device and unleash a huge storm that does start flooding the desert before anyone was prepared for it. It's like full on like Noah's Ark style, like tidal waves, like all of a sudden coming from the skies, basically forming an ocean. And on one hand, it does actually destroy most of the naval ships because they weren't done being built yet. So only one of the Navy ships survives. So that's a point, DW and LP. On the other hand, because we like see everyone like fleeing to the ships, or like DW and LP like trying to get back to land, like back to the plateau, which I would like to pause again. Can't ducks swim and fly? Why are they all panicked? Anyways, I think that's an element they took out of this universe, I would say.
They're like, we got to make a sacrifice if we're going to make them like humanized, then.
Exactly. So Fowl is able to, again, save one ship. They ride it straight up to the city center, the country on the plateau. The storm continues to rain down and flood. They continue to make their demands for oil and to basically secede from the throne and put them on the throne, more or less. Luckily, DW and LP are able to get back to the country quickly. They surf there on some like driftwood. Pretty neat. Get some duck surfing in. A hilarious note, when DW is like, or hatches the plan to like stop them, and he's like tells the princess the plan, all we hear is her, she goes, "Are you crazy?" And his response is, "Maybe a little manic depressive on weekends." And then like runs on. It got me.
Again, like, dude, kids don't know what that means. Like, they're clearly writing for adults.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So good. Again,
that's funny.
Like, give it to us to revive. We will revive the show in a heartbeat.
We can turn this into a great adult animation.
Yep. Exactly. So DW knows that like his usual just like parlor tricks won't cut it. Because like very darkly, like they're also bombing the palace now. Like, we won't get super into it because of like, real life world events, but like it's pretty fucked up and dark. So like in case you are going back to watch this episode, like you do see like an invasion of another country. It's not great.
Gosh, like straight up.
It's never great. And it's hard to watch. So
particularly in an animated show, it's probably
harder. That's what I mean.
Expect it to be
being like, yo, y'all, really?
It's hard in real life or not, but like, an animated show, you're not expecting to see that kind of stuff. So especially a kids animated show.
Yes, precisely. So somehow, DW and LP, their plane converts into a ship, and they like somehow like mainline the oil reserves into a hose and spray the ship with it. And very funny, because you mentioned it in your last episode, and I literally wrote full on like Exxon or Marathon oil spill style and get all of the ducks covered in oil. And last episode we brought up Dawn and how Dawn's used to clean sea creatures and ducks when oil spills happen.
Let me just say, the perfect chemistry of this podcasting duo right here. We do not talk about the episodes that we're going to do before we do them, and we don't like The most we did,
nothing.
the most we did before this is like, okay, should we introduce Darkwing Duck as a whole before we jump into it? Like, we did not talk about the actual plots.
Nope.
Anyway, sorry.
Yep, always on the same page.
Little like shoulder, dust off the shoulders. Just talk about how great this always ends up being when we do not plan these coincidences out whatsoever.
Yep, exactly. So
go back and listen to last week's episode if you're like, what the hell are they talking about? We made a clear connection between these two episodes. And again, further proof that, hey, we could take this, we could spin it into a modern day story. Just saying, tie all this stuff together. We're doing it here and we're only 3 episodes in.
I know.
We got this. Yeah,
we could take this and run with it.
Yes.
So as one can expect, when you're covered in crude oil, things get a little slippery. So all of the Eggmen are like falling on top of each other because it's just like full on like fire hose, just like oil being sprayed. Also, like, y'all losing a lot of money with this method to the country. Anyway,
several barrels wasted.
Yeah, it's probably worth it though, I guess. So the steel beak, the rain machine kind of falls out of his hands and he's like slipping and sliding to get it back. And while this is happening, the classic like, oh, trying to catch it.
Hear like the slippery noises.
Yeah.
And...
Yep, exactly. And while he's trying to fumble, or while he is fumbling with that, I guess the entire country bands together and turns on all of the fans that they own in the country to blow the storm, like the storm cloud over the ship.
It is a cartoon. I gotta remember, as real as it gets sometimes, it is a cartoon still.
Yep. Exactly. So so they do that.
That thing happens.
So they blow the storm cloud over the ship. The storm over the all-metal ship. The all-metal ship covered in flammable oil.
Oh shit.
In which lightning
This is a lightning storm, isn't it? Okay.
And
yes.
Literally just bursts into flames.
Oh, wow. Oh, they actually take it there. Okay. Yep. Man.
They fully take it there. The whole thing bursts into flames. And then you just see the, like, in classic cartoon fashion where it's like, you for a second see like the skeleton structure of something in ashes and then it like crumbles.
Oh, so they all die?
So I will say Steelbeak and some of the Eggmen do survive somehow, even though they were covered in oil. And maybe they had Dawn on board.
And with
scrubbed themselves off.
This is like I guess shameless plug to like P&G too. I guess. Little hometown love. Hey. You're welcome, P&G. Yeah, Dawn, you're all over these Darkwing Duck episodes.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's P&G. That's going to be super awkward if not. Whatever.
They're not listening.
Yeah, hopefully not. Okay. Anyway, shit. Now, so I love how Steelbeak is one of the ones who doesn't get impacted, even though he literally has a fucking steel beak and he sounds like he's very tall. So he's like actually the highest. He's towering.
And he's also covered in oil. So the flames would just like eat up right onto the gasoline that he is.
Just like literally, I guess it's not, he wouldn't like implode because something else caught, but he would just like explode immediately.
But he did not. I will say, so we do see them on like the debris of the ship, like Titanic style, like hanging onto like doors and stuff. All I could think of was Titanic.
That came out, was that 91?
I don't know.
I think that might have been 91, so that's appropriate. Keep talking. Yeah, I'm almost like that was fresh in their mind.
This is good content right here.
Anyway, that's hilarious. Sorry, I'm still like, shit, no, it was 97. My bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. Several years off. Well, maybe actually that was the inspiration.
By.
James Cameron saw that episode of Darkwing Duck and was like, oh my God, I could turn this into a romance movie that isn't super racist, like thinly veiled racism.
Wow. James Cameron's on it.
Yeah.
So
anyway, sorry.
I will say, so while we do see them like survive in the water, we just kind of have to like hope that they're brought to the proper international or at least the country's authorities because we don't see that happen.
So is it just Darkwing and LP here too, or are any other shush agents? So no Grizz,
not that we know of.
No
Maybe
Hooter,
they're that good at espionage, but are clearly not fucking doing anything.
That, or they're like, we have no more agents to lose. We need to send these 2 random contractors in to figure it out before we risk any more of our own agents' lives. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
Grizz, and they're like, no, we're not getting anywhere near that.
Yeah, and like, how does Shush's authority outside their own borders work? Like, technically this wasn't a country that would have jurisdiction over.
Is this a treaty country? Even like, should Shush even be there? Like, do we I guess the princess knows that they're there.
Yeah,
so
the princess like invited them, but what does that contract situation look like? Again, St. Canard's probably getting a lot of oil on this trade-off.
They need it after their banks have just been totally washed clean. So they're like, fuck, we need some money. Literally washed. Yeah. So we need some money coming through. Oil us up. Oil
us up, baby.
Lather us.
Sponsored by Dawn.
We'll get these ducks clean in no time.
We'll put on some like sad Sarah McLachlan, like Touched by an Angel song in the background while we clean the ducks. As if like, I'm sure Dawn uses fossil fuels somewhere in its supply chain, and P&G probably isn't the most green company. So they're like, we saved all of the ducks. Don't look at the rest of our
/ we invest in the oil company that caused it. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, the container is plastic. That's petroleum. That's
But at least they did help some ducks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The ducks though. Those ducks.
Those ducks. So
we're gonna get in trouble. Let's keep moving.
That is where our episode ends.
Oh, okay.
And this is where I would like to make the case for what, again, I think is the real culprit behind this episode today, which has a lot of layers to it, like an onion. Okay. So then I will let you to your own devices to decide if you would like to say a decision on what you think it is. And then I'll tell you what I think the takeaways are.
Okay.
So, cool. And with each one of these, I'll make the case for each.
Okay. Let me hear it.
Option A of the driving force behind this episode. And yes, these are all connected. You mentioned at the start. We're going to separate it out, though.
We'll act like they're
for
not
content purposes.
Yeah.
So was it A, capitalism, where the hunger for riches and power by fowl were willing to do anything, including exploit the worker by any means necessary, in this case, the agents and a different country, where instead of using their technology for good to do something like alleviate drought worldwide, they only used it for the most profitable path. B, the fossil fuel industry, where the harms of fossil fuels were well known by those in charge, but greed drove them to just steamroll ahead just to fill their pockets. In this case, foul is literally any oil executive who doesn't care about their worker or the environment and is literally creating extreme weather events that we see in climate change. C, U.S. military intervention, or again, U.S. foreign
military
policy.
industrial complex. Yeah.
Either way, where the U.S. offers its quote unquote services to countries only which they can reap some other benefit. Where here we either explicitly become involved or involve ourselves unofficially by means of physical presence, supplies, or otherwise in order to obtain something we want. In this case, Shush offers services to fend off an aggressor so we can keep the leader in power who is friendly to us. Or D, all of the above.
Yeah, let's get my guessing. let me put it this way. I'm going to say that all right, foul is obviously evil.
Yes.
They obviously have imperial interests. It does not seem foul is tied to like any one country.
Correct.
So perhaps it is truly a worldwide global syndicate. So I don't know if like any one country is trying to overpower another. Rather, it's just like this grouping of evil people coming together and trying to like control. Exactly. So perhaps they still want each country to have its own sovereignty. They also just want to be like pulling the strings of that country, as similarly to, like you said, certain countries insert themselves in issues so that they can get a political leader in charge who is friendly to them. Foul is just like that. Probably they want to puppet strings over whatever oil producing or financially strong countries they can puppet string over. That being said, though, the knowledge of such a dangerous worldwide organization could lead a country or city like Saint Canard. No other country I can think of besides Saint Canard.
Saint Duck.
To then, have its military industrial complex see a profit-making opportunity under the guise of
help,
peace and help. I won't say other trigger or buzzwords.
Nope.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yep. And they could say, we want to help these people. These things happen, unfortunately.
And Canard is a wild place. Yes.
I alluded at the beginning, like they're all 3 in 1. This is a package deal. These 3 things are not. Yeah. So I'm going to go for D. Like in some way, I think everyone had something to gain. There was obviously a lot to be lost from Foul and from Shush and carrying out these plots and trying to foil. So yeah, I like all 3/4 of your options. I think, definitely big oil is like an instant, because they don't care, like they'll partner with whoever, and I will use a straight up historical fact here. So in this sense, like I'm not, no appearance of misconduct on my part, but literally during World War II, American companies, particularly in the automobile industry and the oil industry, like they worked with the Nazis very heavily. It took a very long time for FDR to finally intervene in World War II. And it was only when he was like, all right, y'all, we're doing, and again, I'm not a historian. Don't take me like at face value. I've read some books. I've watched a lot of documentaries. It's just what I picked up from it. It wasn't until he was like, all right, y'all, we're like full force going to send our troops in there for support to the French. And exactly. That's when like Henry Ford and like Texaco Oil, which is now Chevron, I believe, were like, okay, fine. We'll stop selling stuff to the Nazis. Fine. Yeah. So I mean, we're not going to make that money from fueling the Nazis' tanks. So there is actually a very unfortunate history, and now things have changed. Actually, like, yes, I'm not like simping for corporations here, but if you look at the current war that's going on, corporations are definitely responding better than they have in the past. But there is historical precedent, like on record, of corporations like milking both sides of a war. War profiteering is a very true thing. Disaster capitalism is a true concept. Yes. Like look at with the coronavirus, a lot of companies were like, oh, we can make some money off of this. Yeah. So it happens. I'm keeping it real.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to seem too impartial here. Like I am a human with real beliefs. There's a little bit of free speech that I am allowed to exercise in light of things. So yeah, I would not be surprised if Big Oil was on both sides of this, working with Foul and Shush. Yeah, they're like, hey, we want to stop you and get more oil, or we want to stop Foul and get more oil in St. Canard. But at the same time, like, I mean, hey, if Foul wins though, like, that's an investment. Yeah, we don't want to miss out on that. So,
working all angles. So
there's my 50 cents.
So D, all of the above.
D, all of the above. Primarily A was the oil companies. I think you
capitalism.
Said A was okay.
Was,
D, all of the
above. Great. Great answer. So, look, either way, I think the message is thank you, first of all, for going on that journey with me.
It's a toughie.
It was, again, a multi-layered episode. And I, I'll be totally honest, when I first started watching this episode, I was like kind of getting not pissed, but I was like, what the hell? Because I thought it was about to be like an episode about like a pro-oil propaganda episode of like, it's saving us or some shit like that. But I think actually, and maybe the Disney bigwigs who signed off on this episode thought that, but I think in reality, and as I watched it more and more and thought about it, I think that actually the message of, again, this episode that was way ahead of its time in 1991 were kind of had multi facets. And like you mentioned earlier, led to influencing an entire generation, because what is like the millennials like generational crisis is set, I mean, a lot of them, but a very large one that other generations had not yet experienced is climate change. So let me get on my soapbox here real quick. I think the episode takeaways are that the writers were trying to say, don't be dependent on fossil fuels, support a just transition movement, which I mentioned it briefly earlier, but essentially it's moving away from fossil fuels with the fossil fuel community instead of just leaving them behind. Or saying something like, oh, well, you know, oil and gas job is equivalent to like building solar panels. Like in reality, you're going to get paid more in the fossil fuel job right now. That's kept up your community forever. So just transition is creating permanent, sustainable, very well paying jobs and trainings and having community input. I also think maybe a takeaway, you know, just throw it in there, vote. That seems like a good one. And then maybe like eat the rich ? Unsure, but yeah, there we are, folks.
You don't just tax the rich, like
chomp chomp.
Don't get me started. Maybe one day in another life we'll have a political no, we won't. We'll just keep grumbling to ourselves about politics.
Exactly. So that was today's episode. This is why I sent you that text where my face was just like,
y'all, I hope maybe you will actually like post that on our Instagram. Yeah, that whole thread. Because Grace sent me a picture. I was like, what the fuck episode is she watching? Okay? I wanted to ask, but I was like, no, I am so excited to record now because what episode could give her? Like, she looked terrified, y'all. You'll see. It's like, hilarious. Follow us on Instagram at SatMournMist and or on Twitter at SatMournMist, whatever.
I was just like, how do I even approach this episode with like the geopolitical, environmental, like all of these implications? And I was just like, let's fuck around and find out. We're going to lean into it.
And that's what we did. We found out, we fucked around and we found out. So definitely this show is making me realize Disney was trying to apparently lead us all into a life of like either foreign service or like, what's the responsible like statecraft and like statesmanship, like be good diplomats, like go out and actually like make the world better. Don't do the things that these villains are doing. Don't be foul. Honestly, maybe don't even be shush. Like really try to solve the world's problems.
Have your own path, create a whole new system.
You're using very complex terms too. I mean, like these are, again, I'm still like, I'm floored over the whole idea of like having that naval like intervention or whatever. Like, oh my God, this is a landlocked country. If we flood them, which also like what, well, that's right. They were building the ships in the desert. It was like, what? So they flood it and then like fly naval tankers. And
they were building it there so they would just lift up like a little bathtub with a little toy duck in it.
Cute. That's like a lot of rain. Just naval ships with like cannons. They were like, like guns, like the like landers on them, so planes can like land like fighter jets. Oh my God, it's so cute.
So it's precious. So this episode was a whirlwind.
Great job. Wow. Really great. That was everyone. I was worried. Like I said, she gave me some forewarning on this one and how intense it would get. And I was not expecting it to go there. I was thinking maybe another murder case, like a la Professor Bushroot in your first Darkwing Duck episd. But
don't worry. There's
24 of them. Yeah, there was literally 12 times, I think, as many murders as the first episode or something like that. So that's
it went great.
Great job. Wow. Well, on that note,
who should they tell about this very uplifting podcast?
Wow. Yeah. On that note, I would say we talked a lot about fire hoses, at least today, I guess between this and the last episode I did. So go visit your local fire station. I know they usually do like visitor tours and stuff, and go in there, be nice, maybe bring them a meal. Say hi, thank you for your service. You're XYZ city's bravest. We love you. And yeah, tell them, in between fighting fires, if you need a laugh, you want to listen to two idiot millennial women talk about cartoons,
things that cartoons represent that they know nothing fucking about.
Check out Saturday Morning Mysteries. Nice. Tell them.
Wow, great suggestion. And I think beyond just going to the firehouse, I think when you hear the bell ring, you see them going down the pole, just, hop on the back of the truck, go to the fire, and the family that's running out of the home, or the office workers running from the office on fire, tell everyone who runs out of the burning building about Saturday Morning Mysteries. As the firemen get to work, like, I'm so sorry for the loss of this building. Have you heard of Saturday Morning Mysteries?
I just imagine like a whole crowd of people like fleeing, screaming, like, oh my God, this is so bad too. We're already going to hell, whatever. Like, oh my God, we're all going to die, burn our building. And you're just like handing out flyers on the street, like, oh, excuse me, ma'am,
is that
more mist? No, I can. Next time I'll get here, sir. He seems to be in a rush. No, child crying here.
Wipe up your tears and then listen.
Here, like dab it with the brochure, like the pamphlet. Like, here's how you follow. By the way, keep that for yourself.
Keep that for yourself, kid. Buy yourself something nice.
Oh man. So, all right. Well,
do that.
I sense good karma is coming our way.
It always is. Right. Great. Well, everyone, don't forget to subscribe. Wait,
before we leave. Sorry. Everyone,
subscribe. Alexis wants this episode to be fucking over. That's put her in like a professional corner.
I'm screwed.
All right. Well, let her have her misery.
Before we say anything else that will ruin our lives,
like, subscribe, etc., review,
share, comment. We're not actually bad people. All in good fun. We're joking.
Yes, and
I love you all.
We love you. We'll
wish no harm upon anyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.